Few places in the world are more familiar with the environmental consequences of large-scale mining than Nevada.
Now, our state is the top gold producer in the country, but what happens when the gold runs out?
One byproduct of Nevada's billion-dollar-a-year gold mining industry are so-called pit lakes, which will be left behind long after the mining companies have packed up.
The I-Team recently toured gold mining areas up north and learned why pit lakes are becoming a front-burner issue. George Knapp has our story.
We pile into a plane at the Elko airport and take off to get an aerial view of mining projects so immense they have to be seen from the air to be believed. The plane is owned and piloted by Bruce Gordon, the founder of EcoFlight, a volunteer organization which assists wilderness and environmental groups. Within minutes, we spot the massive projects wrought by mining giants, huge pit mines with terraced sides plunging hundreds of feet into the earth. Also, what look like large, inviting swimming pools. Most are excavated ponds used by mining companies to get water back into the aquifer. But one is a pit lake, a retired mine site that is slowly filling up with groundwater.
The thing that we like to note about the pit lakes is that it's wasted water. It's water that currently under our Nevada's law system, it will never be used. Never. Because they don't reclaim it.
Because the gold mines are deeper than the water table, miners have to pump tens of thousands of gallons of water per minute out of the pits. The biggest companies have spent tens of millions on vast systems that capture and return about 60% of that water into the hydrology system. But what happens when the gold runs out and the companies move on? More than a dozen gigantic lakes will form across northern Nevada, filled with a massive volume of fresh water.
The pit lakes will fill. The pit lakes themselves, or the pits themselves, approximately 1.1 million acre feet of water that will be in those pits. That has to come from somewhere.
University hydrologist Dr. Tom Meyer's recent paper highlights concerns about the long-term impact of pit lakes on the hydrology of the Humboldt River system. He estimates the lakes will eventually siphon off an amount of water equal to 3 times what Nevada's allowed to take out of the Colorado River in a year. After the gold rush, Nevada will be left with a dozen or so man-made lakes, but the water will be so thick with minerals and acid that fish can't survive and swimming would be a bad idea.
But that water, in some cases, it's very toxic.
The water belongs to all of us. It doesn't just belong to Barrick. It doesn't belong to Newmont.
Activist Bob Fulkerson compares it to the Comstock lode, when companies whose names we can't remember made fortunes, then took that wealth out of Nevada and left behind scars still visible 150 years later. When the gold is gone in 10 to 20 years, he says, today's mining behemoths will leave as well.
What'll be left are, thousands of square miles of dried up springs, meadows, seeps. The wildlife that depended on that, the fish that depended on that, the birds that depended on that are gone. The farmers and the people that use that land before are going to have a harder time finding that water. We'll have the largest open pit man-made lakes outside of Lake Mead.
Environmentalists lobbied the Nevada legislature for laws to require reclamation of the land and water, but the mining companies had far more clout. So what are they doing about pit lakes?
Nobody's going to be swimming in it or fishing in it or anything.
No, and that's correct. It changes the water dynamic in the basin.
Mine manager Dr. George Fenimore says his industry does not hide from the environmental challenges. There will be consequences, he says, but the industry isn't leaving anytime soon. Expansion plans stretch into the 2030s and beyond. The industry currently spends millions per year to reclaim and recycle water, including chemicals to treat pit lakes, and it pays into a trust fund for long-term issues. Fenimore admits the pit lakes are a trade-off that Nevada has consciously accepted.
So if cash flow and taxable income and jobs and those sort of things are important to an area, then this is a pretty good use for this land and this water.
George Knapp, 8 News Now.
Nevada's state engineer thinks the worries about the Humboldt Basin being drained are somewhat overstated. However, the mining industry has agreed to initiate a 2-year comprehensive study to look into long-term consequences associated with pit lakes and the hydrology of northern Nevada.